the next couple of years. So the current liabilities from the pensions for the city, if they actually did remotely rational accounting, would be $40 million. So we take in 53 this year, and we owe 40, but that's just the pensions, that's just part of the story. And by the way, these pension costs, when they start really ramping up, they are superior obligations. They get paid before any services will get paid, including police, fire, lifeguards, libraries, and we all know roads, right? They're already doing that. Okay. All right. And he said we're the city of Bell, and I read about 300 pages of pension documents, which were, the city was very reluctant. I have the '08 version. Apparently it's 2010, but the last year's isn't available yet. And the city made another big mistake. They accidentally must have made a mistake. They posted the 2009 Comprehensive Financial Annual Report, which is 130 pages long, and it's like going through a Byzantine maze. I'm trained in finance, and I do mergers and acquisitions for a living. And I've looked at lots of balance sheets, and I've looked at lots of income statements. And this city is allowed to operate in such a way that they can cover up quite a bit of stuff. And they're also being backed by S&P, Standard & Poor's gave the city an AA rating. Now they also gave Enron a great rating. They gave Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers all wrong. So they're full of baloney. And then on top of that, CalPERS is $500 billion in the hole. Well, actually not CalPERS, but all the California pensions combined. So give them a couple $100 billion of that. And they don't want to admit it. In fact, they state in black and white in their actuarial report how they are actually putting off losses and things like that. So what I want to do right now is kind of make this personal. So we all know the roads are a disaster, right? I mean, a really bad, people say it's like Detroit. I went to Detroit on a business trip. We're worse than Detroit. We actually look a lot like Nicaragua, which is the poorest, second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So how much do you think, just so you know, the city brings in about $53 million in operating money from tax revenue and that kind of thing. How much do you think we spent on the street maintenance? Less than 1%. We spent 500 grand. That's $2,500 a mile. Okay? How much do you think we spent at the administration of the parks and recreation? We're not actually talking about doing stuff for the parks, just the phones and the people pushing papers. We spent $500,000. So we're getting no services. You can look at the beaches, you can look at beach access, you can look at erosion. I was on the stairs at Grandview 2 days ago, and they were shaking. So, but let's talk about where the real liabilities lie in the city, and that they're not really accurately reporting. So let's look at the pensions. Your average person, the way the pensions work is you work 30 years at the city, and at age 55, you retire with your highest year's total compensation. So you can cash in vacation time, sick time. You can max the heck out of your overtime if you're that type of employee. The city employees are supposed to pay, per the state's recommendation, half of their pension contributions, which comes out to be about 16% of total payroll for city employees and 20% for fire. So your city employees are supposed to be paying 8% of what they earn into the pension. They pay 3%. You pay the rest. Fire employees, safety employees pay 0 into the pension. Nothing. You pay 100% of that. And they have things, base salaries are meaningless, because things like if you use up a lot of vacation time and this and that, that counts towards overtime. So you can theoretically take 3 weeks of vacation, work a couple extra shifts the last week, and still make overtime. So what happens when they're done? Well, if you're in the system according to, and all this comes from the Encinitas Financial Report and the 2008 CalPERS Annual Actuarial Report for the Encinitas pensions. So the average employee who's been in the system at this city for 25 years is making $96,000. That's pre-spike. Now, you're kind of saying, well, okay, a lot of people make money in this town. So that is worth when they're done spiking it and this and that, they're going to get 80 to 90% of their total spiked highest year's compensation. Let's just be generous, say $100,000. $100,000 guaranteed from 55 till death, also transferable, also fully insured by you guys, and we paid an extra, I don't know, I think they wired about $8 million this year into that system. So that's worth $2 million cash. I called Vanguard, said, what is an annuity of $100,000 a year for the rest of my life? I'm age 55 worth. But that's just part of it. There's a lot of employees that are going to be retiring at $200K. $100K is going to be the base. It's going to be a tsunami of pension costs. Now, what has CalPERS done with all the money? Well, they lost it. They lost 28% of their portfolio in 2008. They admit so in their report. They also state in the report, no one really knows what the pensions are going to cost. They actually say that. They also say that they've been smoothing over their losses by averaging over a 15-year period. Wouldn't that be nice? But they lost so much money recently, as of the 08-09 report, that they had to smooth it over again and defer more of the losses. So they are actually helping the cities underfund their pensions. But the numbers we know that are accurate are the numbers for what the pensions are going to cost, because it's calculated based off cities' workers' salaries. That number is $65 million. That's a present value of what we owe today for the pensions. The amount of assets we have to cover, this is the baloney number from CalPERS, is probably off by about 30%, $35 million. Oh, I forgot to talk about healthcare. They get free healthcare for life too. And they're not paying Social Security taxes. But let's go a little further. According to their own annual report, that's $10 million due today. I'm talking about current liabilities. I'm not talking about when these things triple in the next couple of years. So the current liabilities from the pensions for the city, if they actually did remotely rational accounting, would be $40 million. So we take in 53 this year, and we owe 40, but that's just the pensions, that's just part of the story. And by the way, these pension costs, when they start really ramping up, they are superior obligations. They get paid before any services will get paid, including police, fire, lifeguards, libraries, and we all know roads, right? They're already doing that. So let's look at with other stuff the city's accumulated in the last couple of years. $17 million in deferred road maintenance. The Encinitas Taxpayers Association had to sue or threatened to sue to get a lot of these documents. The outstanding city's debt is $46 million. Unfunded pension costs, I just mentioned about $40 million. They excluded $39 million for the golf course they built up there at Ecke Ranch because we're only on the hook for part of that, like $15 million worth, which I'm sure they're already paying out and not telling us. And then if you start throwing in county costs, you have another $126 million in debt. So you guys here are on the hook for $229 million. But current debt, if they were a public company that was traded on the stock market, they would have to inject $57 million today into the pension system and to fund the roads. That would be a reasonable thing to do. So I don't think I have much more to say, but you know, this is the tip of the iceberg. And I think we should demand that a professional, non-governmental, non-CalPERS, non-S&P 500 put together a real